Welcome to the How to Hustle podcast, brought to you by Blockspace, your creative agency. That's BLOXSPACE.co. That's BLOXSPACE.co. Blockspace.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of the How to Hustle podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Rowan, and I am joined by Miss Jasmine.
Hello.
And Joe DeBoss.
Joe DeBoss, baby. What's up?
All right, guys. Today's episode is all about what we like to call the almost hustle phenomenon.
Ooh, ouch.
Yes. If you're out there listening, this is not a term that you hear a lot, but I think it's pretty much implied what it means. It means you try to hustle and you almost do it, but you never actually get there.
It's an air ball, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of reasons people don't ever actually get around to the hustling part, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Things that you should do when you're starting a new hustle or any hustle, and how you can escape this phenomenon. And actually 90% of people fall into this black hole of almost. I think Joe, have you guys ever fallen into this almost phenomenon black hole?
Every other day plus 2 times on Sunday.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can talk about black holes. Yeah, definitely.
You get into this almost, and like I was saying, 90% of people fall into this place of almost, but only 10% make it out of the almost into actually being a hustle, actually hustling and actually being successful. And
right.
So we're going to talk about what it takes to be in that 10%, and it's actually not that hard to be in the 10%. And we're going to start off with what I think is the most basic concept of success. I think it applies for everything. I want to hear what you guys think on it.
All right.
We're going to talk about the importance of just showing up.
Oh my gosh.
Real talk.
Dude, Joe and I say this to each other all the time. Like, the hardest part is showing up.
Yep.
It's the hardest part.
It is.
Once you're there, you're there.
You're there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's the saying of you're going for an interview, you gotta shower, shave, and show up, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's important. Come on, guys, talk to me about this. How do you guys do on showing up personally? Just to anything. How do you show up to, taking your shower that you're supposed to take, or to class, or to
for
work?
Real. For real. I mean, for me, I learned that a long time ago that 90% of the time when I do show up, I'm super blessed. I get that contact. I get some introduction to somebody. It's good for networking. But ultimately, you got to start showing up for yourself. Nobody's going to get you to the place or be your cheerleader to get you to the place of success. You have to want it and desire it. And the best thing to not fall into that black hole is to model success. So one of my mentors, I got a couple of them, Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, and also Tony Robbins. And I listen to them all the time. And so they edify me with, building that company, strong company, how to do it, not to fall into those black holes, and how to keep yourself motivated. Because if you're not motivated, then how are you supposed to accomplish anything?
Right, yeah. And I think, like you talked about showing up for yourself, it's like one of those things for showing up for yourself is like asking for help, or like you said, a model of success. So having something that you model success off of and being able to communicate like maybe what you're missing or something that you're not 100% sure of or something that you need.
Well, I think
if you show up enough and ask for it.
And I think a lot of times we allow our pride to kick
absolutely.
our butts, to stop. Like we'll blame something. We'll blame life. We'll blame so-and-so that's in my relationship, whatever. It still got to be a mindset for success. I'm going after this without nothing. Nothing's going to stop me.
Yeah.
I'm going to get it done.
I'm going to show up every day.
Every day. And when you purpose it in your heart, I guarantee you it's going to happen. I guarantee you. I could stand up on a milk carton and tell you, I can guarantee to you that if you purpose your heart towards that idea, towards that vision, it will come to pass.
Yeah. I think, Rowan, you're probably 100% right. It's a huge reason why a lot of hustles fail is it's hard, and it's hard to show up every single day and try to do the same thing and try to do something that you're not getting results on. And that's the thing that with hustles is hard. A lot of the times I think is because you are expecting so much, and it's not like an overnight process, right? A hustle is like years long process in order to get it actually going. And when you're not seeing it, it's hard to show up every day for something that you're not seeing like results from.
Yeah, and that's the time when you got to dig deeper. That's the time when you got to sit there and just, like cheerlead yourself.
Yeah, you got to show up for yourself.
Yeah,
exactly.
Start showing game to yourself and speaking. And you know what? Anything you're dealing with as an entrepreneur, as somebody that wants to have freedom and work for themselves and build their own companies and really grow, there's thousands of videos on YouTube that you could go watch that would encourage you. You know what I'm saying? Just type in motivation. You know what I'm saying? And if you can listen to them words and get edified by them, then your business will grow. You will grow as a person because your business will not do anything unless you're growing personally. If you're showing up for yourself and you're doing it for yourself and you have a vision and you show up every day, it's going to come to pass.
Exactly. Yeah. And what you're kind of talking about, Joe, if you're listening to this podcast, you're already taking a good step.
A good step.
You're not showing up yet because I don't think listening to our podcast is your hustle. But this kind of leads me, this is kind of a two-part thing I wanted to introduce. You got to show up. And then the second most important thing that you do when you show up, Joe, is you need...
She's swinging swords, people.
Joe.
is you need to listen. You need to listen what people are telling you. And this is very important in regards to your hustle. If you get so dead set that you think your hustle idea is perfect, or your business idea is perfect, or that your car, your Uber car is in perfect condition, and you don't listen to people when they tell you you might need to tweak this, or that they really don't see any potentiality in your idea, or that you need to just completely throw it out the door. If you don't listen, then you might end up going down a path you don't want to go down with your hustle. There's no point to hustle in something that's not going to go anywhere. So it's important to show up, and then when you are doing your hustle or whatever you're doing, get other people's input. And I think a good example is Jasmine, your hustle right now is writing a book, and this kind of applies to all writers. You can write, but you need to listen to what people say about your writing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly. So aren't you going to invite people to listen?
I think there's a double side to that, because I think that if you're listening to the right person, number one, that you trust, that cares about you, not the haters trying to tell you you suck, don't do it, it's not a good idea, but always test your ideas against people, hear what they got to say, be open for change. That's a big one, because we do get set in our mindsets.
Yeah. I think a great point to this as well is the customer's always right. So if you can find a way to find your customer base and then really go off of your hustle and see what they have to say about it, like for example, if you start a hustle where you have like 10 products you're selling, okay? And if you're listening to your customers and you test it with a couple of customers or whatever, and a group of 10 customers only want 3 of your products, like they all only got 3. Why are you wasting your time selling the other 7 if it's a huge thing that these 3 are the sales makers? It's listening to what's actually working, what people are responding to.
So think about this. Say I'm going to start a t-shirt company today, right? I can go to an online printing place that will automatically print it and ship it. I just got to come up with an idea, put it on a shirt, create the landing page at Facebook, and then put it out there. Yeah. If you get sales, then hey, I better spend some money on marketing. I better, this is going to crack. But if you don't even test it, even do 2 or 3 designs and say, put it out there on Instagram, all your social media, and say, what do you think? And
you gotta show up on the space,
exactly what I was
and then
say.
you gotta listen to the response. Absolutely.
And that all kind of leads me into my second point I wanted to kind of bring up to you guys. Is that with your hustle, make sure you're offering something that people actually want.
Yeah. Right.
And the best idea for starting a new hustle is to try to go into as unsaturated of a market as you can. Something that's scalable, per se. What do you guys have to think about that?
Well, I think when I think about a hustle, I think about the barriers to entry before I think of anything else. So writing a book, the barriers to entry are writing it. It's a big barrier. Publishing it, and then marketing. Like those are the only barriers into the market of being a writer.
And you get it, and the thing of it is you get, we use influencer marketing with the Instagram and stuff, and if you get some writer author out there that's super high and you get them to read your book or talk about your book, it'll move.
Right.
I texted Gary Vee. I sent him my offer saying, look, Gary Vee, I need your help, man. I just need a shout out. Go out there and shout it out for me. Let me have a call with you. You know what I'm saying? And go from there. but I'm going to hunt him down until he says yes. You see what I'm saying? I'm going to be stalking him. I'm going to start a campaign next week of me making videos.
Yeah, but if you're trying to start a restaurant, which would not be a hustle, as we've talked about before, defining what a hustle is. But say if you're trying to start a restaurant, your barriers to entry are a building, food handlers permits, like all of these things.
Well, let's go even further.
Okay.
Let's go even further. Do you have good recipes?
Yeah.
Have you had a house party at your house and have people test your food and tell you what they think? Mm-hmm. Then you could take that and go to a pop-up kitchen, right? You cook it at your house. You show up with some pans and a little tarp, and you do pop-up kitchens. Because down south, pop-up kitchens are large, where they just show up with their little tent. They got their food. They're doing their thing.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Food trucks are like the same idea.
Yeah, but that's the next level, right?
Yeah,
because I'm on a budget, but I think I really have some good recipes. I think I got good flavors. Let me test it. Friends got it. Oh, they love it. Let's do it. Okay, there's an event happening over here. I can get a little booth for $100, $200. Boom, go out there and do it. Mm-hmm. Then that way you start having proof of concept, and then it's easier to start growing, and then people start writing about your food, and you start getting more exposure. And the biggest thing about restaurants is there's a whole segment of investors that only invest in restaurants.
Right.
Food products, beverage products.
I always forget that investing's like a straight up industry.
It is. I mean, you see it on LinkedIn. Like I hit like a couple hundred people yesterday with our offer, and you see it in their name: investor, early stage investing. A VC, venture capitalist investor. A home office investor. So you got all these different investors. But if you go to sites like investor.com and you put in just restaurants or entertainment or whatever, you'll get a bunch of them, and then you just contact them and say, hey, here's my little white paper, here's my business plan, this is what I've done, it's tested, this is what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I completely agree, but I want to backpedal a step there. You were just talking about you had a pop-up kitchen, and then you can go to a food truck, which is super popular here in the Pacific Northwest because it rains all the time. And then maybe ideally you go into a restaurant. That's what we're talking about with scalability.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have to be a cook. Like we were saying, that isn't a side hustle necessarily, but say consulting is a very popular side hustle. If you have something that you're knowledgeable in and can help others go into, you can start just being a solo consultant. Mm-hmm. And eventually you can scale that into maybe having one or two other people who work with you and eventually having your own consulting firm.
Right.
That's what we're talking about with scalability. And that's where the best hustles kind of stem from. You start with something that you can go upwards in. Because if you start with, just... I can't think of an example right
now.
Well,
say if you start with a restaurant, right? Like you don't do the scaling up part. For one, you're not listening because you haven't had the chance to listen. So it's just not a good idea. But
that's why restaurants fail.
Right, because they just start as restaurants, and when it's like,
say,
dude,
hey, I'm a cook, I'm going to go set a restaurant.
No one even told you that they like your food. Yeah, I don't know why you just opened a restaurant.
Or the coffee shop that just opened up at the end of town for less than 3 weeks before it got shut down.
Yeah, just like my daughter-in-law, I'm looking for her future to say, okay, I see some locations for her to have her bakery.
Yeah.
She ain't ready.
No.
She's starting with her little truck that she got selling cupcakes and making sure that she supplies everybody that has parties that need cupcakes.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
That's the road. But I wanted to drop seeds in her ear to say, hey, keep doing that. A year from now, you will be ready, or 2 years from now, you will be ready, and we'll be ready to support it and get it going.
Yeah. Well, and so that's what I mean by barriers to entry, right? Is you don't want to go into a saturated pond.
No.
You don't want to go into a place without proof that you should be there. Who invited you here? Yeah. You know what I mean? Where's your invite?
Yeah.
So if you go into an industry that, the barriers to entry are everyone and their mom is doing the same thing.
Like Uber.
Okay, yeah.
Lyft.
Great example.
Everyone can do that. If you have a car and that's less
not to
than
say it's
20
a bad
old,
thing to do,
no.
but it's
not scalable. A few episodes.
It's not going to get you into the 10%.
We talked about that financial freedom a few episodes again, and we specifically said that Uber is never going to get you to financial freedom unless for some wild reason you start another ride-sharing business. That's about as far as you can go.
And you could if you pick rural areas and say, hey, I'm going to be your driver for doctor's appointments forever, and I'm here, and this is what I cost.
Exactly.
But then it's you're a taxi.
Yes.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but there's so many hustles that, and some people, in some cities, they do need you to license yourself and all that stuff. But we're just saying, you know, the idea is it's just like the T-shirt thing. I create one design, people are eating it. Then I entered another design, people are eating it. Well, then I could probably have a clothing line, right? Because I'm picking the colors right, I'm getting the right graphics, I'm putting it out there, people are liking it.
Yeah, people are buying it.
People are buying it. I mean, that's the proof, you know, right there. When you get your first dollar from a project, like when I build websites and mobile apps and all that stuff for people, when I get that money, it's a blessing because I know that I'm going to give them my best, you know, and they're going to be happy with my work.
I guess one thing that I just thought about, a huge reason why 90% of hustles don't get people to financial freedom, people are afraid to fail, you know? That's what comes up with the first one, showing up. It's hard to show up when you're super expecting that the door is going to be closed in your face.
Yeah, you got, you know, I'm going to tell you a little quick story. When I was in Las Vegas, I didn't even say Las Vegas. Yeah, I don't even want to talk about Vegas no more, but I spent 31 years like in jail sentence in Vegas. But anyways, I was running my best friend's recording studio.
Yeah.
Because I was doing the independent hip hop records and stuff, and he liked, you know, how I manage. So I ended up scaling it from like 3 people to like 18 people, and 13 or 14 of them were interns learning how to record and how to press CDs and all that stuff, right?
Pretty cool.
So he says, look, we're buying all the CD equipment. Why don't we go to all the other studios and sell them the service? Like their artists, whoever records there, you could say, hey, One Vibe could make your CDs for you. Here's a flyer, and we go in partnership. Well, we went to this one studio, and the guy's telling them, and Robbie's not listening. I'm listening, right? The guy's talking, the guy that owns the studio, and he's saying that he wants to get out of the business. The way he was saying it was he was trying to tell Robbie, you should just take over my business. But Robbie didn't catch it, right? So in my heart, I went to Robbie when we got outside the car. I said, Robbie, did you hear what he said? He said he wants to give you the studio. But Robbie was trying to get out of the studio, right? Because he's just burnt out. He did 15 years in the studio business.
So he wasn't listening.
Yeah, he wasn't listening. So what I did was I went and prayed, and I believed, and I went to the guy, and I said, can I make an appointment to see you? He said, yeah, come see me. I said, before I left that, come see me. I said, I want your studio. And he looked at me for real. And I'm like, yes. He said, come see me Wednesday. When I met with him Wednesday, that Friday he calls me in and he hands me the keys to a $600,000 studio. Not a dollar in my pocket.
Crazy.
But
you showed up and then you listened.
But guess how I failed? I got fearful.
Right.
As soon as I got the keys and started trying to do business, I started worrying about the electricity bill. I started worrying about how am I going to market it. You know, and I didn't have all the skills I have today, right? Because this is early 2000s. So I failed.
You were afraid, and you're afraid to probably ask for the right help. Yeah. I mean, fear is one of the most controlling factors in every single person's life. I mean, whatever the level is. And if you can just show up enough for yourself and believe in yourself enough to where you can fail, where you can allow yourself to fail, you're probably going to succeed.
No, I completely agree. Fear controls almost everything we do, whether we think of it or not. And it could be we make coffee because we fear that if we don't drink the coffee, we're going to have a caffeine deprivation headache.
Oh, that's not fear. That's knowledge.
That's reality.
It's knowledge. Okay. But
no, I know what you mean, though.
Yeah.
I know
so
what
we
you mean.
put on our seatbelts because we fear if we get in an accident, we could get injured if we don't.
Or click it into
We go to college because we're afraid we can't make enough money if we don't.
That's
the only reason I'm in college.
It's the same reason I'm in college. It's fear that's driving us to do it, even though I don't necessarily want to be in college. I want to do my own thing. But society has instilled such fear in the both of us that we have to go.
Yeah.
And then the same thing transfers to when you're ready to start a hustle, which is why it's always the best thing to start with a small hustle, like dog walking. Something where you can fail at it, realize what you're not good at it, and fail forward. So then you can try again, or you can adapt.
Or start somewhere where the fail potential is pretty dang low. Or failing doesn't mean so much, right?
Yeah, it's not like you're not going to make rent or you're going to lose a leg or a limb or something.
Yeah, like you're
that like, you fail with
or you're not
teaching.
Or you're not going to like go to jail, or you're not going to like hire people and not be able to pay them. Like that's a fear, you know. And if you start
every day. No.
I know. I was thinking about you when I said that. But if you can start somewhere where you're only like 2 stairs up the staircase, then falling, you're not gonna die if you fall down 2 stairs. But if you climb all the way up and you don't have the right shoes on, like you don't know, you just tried to go all the way up, falling is gonna excuse my French, fucking hurt.
No, it is. And so if you make it to that second step and you fall down, you learn how to not trip on that third step. You realize what you're not good at, and that if you don't get better at it, you're not going to go anywhere. But
and if you take it one stair at a time, you can learn from why were you unstable on stair number 2? That way when you get to stair number 7, you're sturdier.
Or here's even better. You do 1, 2, 3 steps, and then you leap up over the 4th, 5th, and 6th steps, and you land on 7 and 8, but you have so much momentum from your drastic jump that you just end up falling all the way back down, that you scaled up.
Great analogy.
And that is, but that's cool too, because I could tell you the other side of that is, I try to teach my kids and people that are around me is, you really don't know what you want to do. You have to try things. You have to see, what is my passion? You know, how do I become alive? What livens me up? What is my passion? Because if you don't know that, then you need to go try stuff to figure out, okay, I'm gonna own a fast food restaurant. I'm gonna go work there. Oh man, I hate fast food restaurants. Okay, I'm gonna go work in this car lot and wash cars. Oh, I suck at cleaning cars. You know, you go through these patterns and you just try to figure out who you are. What do you like to do?
Well, I think I've joked a lot of times about this, but I've worked in, I mean, just since I was 14, like, a lot of different weird places. Like, I'm always like, oh yeah, I worked at one of those for a while, and people are like, what are you talking about? Like, how? I thought you, yeah. Anyway, but I didn't know for the longest time. I thought all the time. I thought every time I went into this job, oh, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to love this. Nope, did not. Go into another one. Oh, this is going to be awesome. I love it. Nope, don't love it.
I think that's a great example why, if you are listening out there and you are in college by chance, do internships and stuff like that. Just like Jasmine is working in a field in exactly what she's getting her degree in. I have not had a single day's experience in what I'm getting my degree in, and I'm taking an internship as soon as possible for this exact reason, because you don't know what you like. And the same is for your hustle.
Yeah.
And when you're starting with these smaller hustles like we were talking about, you can try a lot of things. You could try Uber. You could try dog walking. You could try cooking grilled cheeses for the neighborhood.
Start with an idea and, put yourself in a position to not fail too hard, and then try it.
Exactly. We can't have this fear of failure. We need to learn how to, we like to say, fail forward.
Yeah, because, I mean, I've been battling fear my whole life, and it comes from your upbringing. You know, it comes up from when your childhood, the stuff that happens to you as a kid, it gets planted in your heart. So if you have those fears and anxieties about certain things in life, it's going to be hindrances. You know, it's going to slow you down, but you got to just believe in yourself and go past it. You really got to. And that's what I'm trying to teach and tell everybody. But as I'm even teaching and telling, I'm telling myself, you know, you got to be stronger. You got to focus more on this. You got to make this happen. You got to, wave your wand over here and get this cracking,
Yeah.
And move forward. But the biggest thing, especially all the mentors and people I listen to, they all say fail, because you're not going to know. You fail, go for it, dust yourself off, keep going.
There's an old saying, right? You learn from your mistakes. Yeah. Like, the best place to learn is when you did something wrong. Mm-hmm.
And you just got to be okay with learning, because it just means failing. They kind of go hand in hand. And I think what I do sometimes when I'm kind of feeling down, I listen to that song that's like, don't worry, be happy.
Don't worry.
Rent's going to be late.
Yep.
It's okay. Yep, just keep smiling. That's me. That's literally my life. And that song makes me feel so much better.
It does.
Because it means there's other people out there who are struggling. They are failing.
And there's people out there worse than what we are.
And we can fail forward and we can smile while we do it.
Amen.
Yeah.
Preach.
But in all reality, let's talk about ways we can avoid failure. We can avoid fear. And I think I always like using the example of writing, because it's what I do. Mm-hmm. And Jasmine, you also like to do it, is with every hustle, you need to break it up. And we talked about this in Financial Freedom. Break it up into attainable steps.
Yeah, goals, missions.
Goals. Do not just say, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a book. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to design this t-shirt design and I'm going to post it tonight. They might seem realistic, especially if you're just going to write a short story or just one t-shirt and you're just posting one thing. You don't necessarily know how hard that is. And so it's better to really understand what you're going to be doing and break it down. So for a t-shirt, you should say, all right, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to pick out what drop shipping company I'm going to go through. I'm going to pick out a color scheme. I'm going to pick out a company name. I'm going to pick out what the theme is. And for writing, it could just be like starting by sitting down, opening a document, and writing for only 15 minutes. 15 minutes for one day.
That's what I was just going to say is maybe readjusting what the failure... I mean, I'm talking to myself right now, I guess, but...
We all do. You're not alone.
But, like, maybe adjusting what failure is in your head, right? So if you were like, I'm going to write a chapter in my book tonight, and you sit down and you got writer's block and you can't do it, so you failed. Like, you set that goal for yourself, you failed. But if you, instead of saying, I'm going to write a chapter in my book tonight, you say, I'm going to sit down for 3 hours. I mean, that's quite a lot to write, but
long
I know, I was just thinking that too. Okay, you sit down for an hour. I'm going to sit down for an hour and write as much as I can. I bet when you go into it, you're going to be less stressed out too, because you don't have this weight of like, I have to write a chapter tonight.
You cleared out this hour where you said that's another important thing.
You're just
for
showing up
hustles.
for an hour.
You have to show up, and it's important to treat your hustle like a job. You need to set aside time. It's also like how you need to set aside time for your significant other or for cooking. Because if you just say, all right, I'm going to work for 8 hours and I'll do the rest later, guess what? It doesn't happen. It does not happen. You have to set aside time.
Preach.
Exactly. And so when you know you have an hour specifically dedicated to writing, even if you have writer's block for your particular story, you can just write. You can write about your day, write about a prompt.
Yeah.
But make the goals attainable. It doesn't even have to be pertaining to your book, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Or it could just be a t-shirt design that you don't necessarily even want to sell.
Just whatever grows
Just
you.
do something.
Exactly.
Make yourself feel like you accomplished something.
It feels good when you set out and accomplish something, you know, because like yesterday it felt really good. I went out and reached out to a bunch of investors. I sent my pitch to them all.
Dope.
And I had like 3 people hit me back up and say, we're looking at it. That made me feel accomplished because it actually, when I had to do the video, I had to make a pitch video, 2-minute pitch video to be on this new platform that we're trying to do our equity raise on, right? And so I had to do this video. When I was done with the video and I watched it a couple times, I was like, it woke me up. It gave me the passion why I started what I did. You know what I'm saying? Why I created Blockspace. The reason why I know I have a vision for it. I know it's going to happen. I believe it with everything that I am. But life, thinking you failed, burning through cash, all these different things that happens when you're trying to do a startup, you're dealing with, you know, but you have to find something that gives you momentum.
Right.
You know, what is in your life that you allow yourself to get momentum? Who's speaking life to you for that momentum?
Yeah. Yeah, so that brings up, like, a point that I'd like to talk about. I think, and I think, Joe, you'll agree with this, it's easy to light a fire. Like, it's easy to just start. It's easy to start somewhere. Like in a week, you can start a hustle somewhere. But what's the hard part is keeping the fire going, like continuing to put wood on it every day
100%.
while you're like trying to feed yourself and shower every day.
And then it starts raining, and then
then it
wood's
rains,
wet,
yeah,
and then, oh god,
and then you have to
downhill.
find, yeah, exactly. So what do you do when you've been going at it? Your hustle was like on fire. It was going for a second, and then it's starting to get a little hard.
You start going into that almost hustle place where
Exactly.
trying to avoid.
Exactly.
100%.
What do you do when you get to that point? Let's hear your thoughts.
I say readjust your brain.
Yeah, because, I mean, you have to. It's a mindset. You know, like I said, you know, our friend Jazz is going through some drama for herself, and we love her. But I was trying to tell her, and what I tell myself is you got to change your perspective at that moment.
Right.
So that it doesn't consume you, right? And you can still perform. I have a big issue with performing. I get performance anxiety. You know what I'm saying? When I have to go in front of people.
You can't pee in public.
You feel what I'm saying? You got to. It's hard. But if you don't surround yourself with good people that are going to encourage you, and say you don't have no people, let you two be your people.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? For real. Everybody got a phone. Everybody can go get some internet. Go to the library. If you ain't got internet, free internet at the library.
Go sit at a bar. Someone will come up to you.
You know what I'm saying? And just
Okay,
start
maybe not. Maybe not alcoholism, but
Okay. But like, go sit at a coffee shop.
all right, that's better.
Yeah, no, but
I go sit at a bar,
no,
but
I get you. But there are places that you know that can give you creativity.
Right.
Like me, it's the movies. When I'm really, really low, if I go to the movie, I lose myself for those 2 hours, whatever how long the video is, and my brain literally starts to relax, and then I start to see really clear. I don't know what it is. Is it about sitting still for a minute and watching something where you're totally focused on.
Yeah.
But whatever that is, I just know that that's my key.
It readjusts your brain.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then another thing you guys are talking about kind of intermittently in there is that you have to want to keep that fire going.
Oh,
So
yeah.
a lot of people, myself included, this is definitely, I would say, me and Joe's biggest pitfall is we get an idea and we get super passionate about it and we go at it for a week. It's like all we can
That's what
think
I'm
about
saying,
it.
yeah.
It's all I want to do. And then I realized at the end of that week that I really kind of want to go eat some ice cream and don't really want to do anything anymore. And I realized I don't really want to keep that fire going. I was just doing it because I thought it was a form of money. And we've talked about this before. I just thought it was another form of income that I could get started really quickly. But I didn't have any passion to do what we're doing. And then you talked about, Joe, just a minute ago, you had to make that video. And when you watched yourself talk about it, you remembered how passionate you are about the topic.
100%.
That you really do want to keep that fire going. But there's other things, like starting a t-shirt store, that it sounds so great because it's so easy. And you get it done in a night if you're really psycho. But then you realize, like, you don't really want to do it.
No, you realize the work.
Yeah.
You know, and especially as many companies as I built and done with, you know, I recognize the work, the level of work, the level of attention. You can't have 5 hustles if you're not successful with one.
Yeah.
You know, you got to stay on that path. And that's what it did. It reminded me yesterday that, hey, I'm on a path. Our buildings are building. This is what's going to happen. The money's going to come. I believe it with all I am. And I'm going to keep focused.
Yeah.
You know, and stay
You
on
can't
that
just
path.
keep being afraid because then
No.
it's not going to happen.
No, scared money don't get money, right?
Yeah.
So I ain't scared.
No, it's exactly. And so one of my things for the summer is I have all of these unfinished projects that I start, and then for one reason or another, I decide I don't want to do them anymore. Whether I usually use the excuse that life gets in the way, that I have schoolwork, that I have work to do, that I need to spend time with my boyfriend. And it's really all just an excuse not to put more work into
100%.
it. And so I'm going to be personally making a list of every project I have left unfinished for the past about 2 years. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to finish them, whether it's actually finishing the garden box for my window or finishing a company I started or a story that I started writing. I want to go through because I want that sense of accomplishment, because those things do start to weigh on your shoulders. I know Joe definitely feels this, Jasmine, you probably do too. These little things that you leave unaccomplished start to weigh you down, which is the important thing that I was talking about, of making those attainable goals, because it readjusts your mindset, like we're talking about.
Well, one of the teachings, which I have not adopted, so I'm confessing my sins right now, is write it all down. Write your goals. Because something about you writing it tells your brain that it's real.
Oh, should we talk about my journal again?
Okay.
Yeah, for real.
Let's talk about my journal again.
This was what we were ultimately building to, unbeknownst to the two of you. Joe, you just perfectly led us into the climax of this episode.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, everybody hold on.
I'm scared.
This is the key to your hustle. I'm about to tell you what is going to make
Dude, lay
your
it
hustle.
on me.
Are you guys ready?
We're ready.
Yeah.
Don't talk about your hustle. Don't tell a single person what you're doing.
Okay.
And I have watched many TED Talks on this, and my favorite one, you guys can go watch it. It was Derek Sivers, I think is how you say it. It was a TED Talk, and it is all about do not talk about your goals, because when you talk about it, this is psychology, your brain already plays through of what it's going to look like at the end. It goes through all the little things you have to do, and then you already feel like you've done it. That your brain, even though you know you haven't done it, your brain is like, hey, we've already built this. We already wrote the story. You know how your story's going to go. Mm-hmm. You feel like that's going to go. And then you tell people.
It's like
hey,
already done in your head.
It's already done. Hey, I'm writing this children's book and I'm going to illustrate it and it's going to be great. And you tell everyone. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, congratulations. It's the same reward feeling you get when you would have finished the book. But you got it early because you talked about it. Wow, and
that's
so
deep.
Yeah.
Your brain already
deep.
feels like you do it.
For
and
real.
so when
Mariana Trench.
this is what I do. I'm Joe, you do this. We get these ideas, and the first thing I have to do is I have to tell my boyfriend. I have to. It's like, I need to tell you what I'm doing because it's so exciting and it's going to be so great. But then he tells me how great it is, and then I go tell my dad, and he tells me how great it is.
And then tomorrow you're like, wait, what?
Exactly. And I'm like, all right.
Where am I at with it?
Exactly. In my head, I'm like, I've
Yeah.
already done it.
And then, okay, so this brings up a thing that I do to myself all the time. I'm like really excited. I'm fueled. I'm like going at it. And then things set me back. And if I would have kept it to myself, those failures or those like little baby failures would just be little baby failures that I could go after tomorrow. But
don't worry about it.
Okay. But if I didn't tell anyone, like if I told someone, then it's like, wait, weren't you gonna do this? And then it didn't. Like, I'm like, oh no, well, things came up. I couldn't, and then I have to explain why it didn't happen, and it makes me feel even worse. Like, I failed more than if I would have kept it to myself.
Exactly, and I do this thing when it comes to something as small as hanging out with friends. I don't have friends because I am if you ever watch, like, Friends, I'm Phoebe, but, like, on steroids. Like, I am flaky. I am ridiculously flaky, and I accept that. I talk about what I'm going to go do. Hey, I'm going to go hang out with my friends on Thursday, and then I talk about how much fun it's going to be. And then Thursday rolls away.
I attracted people like me.
And then I'm tired, and then I don't go. I'm just like, hey guys, I don't feel well. Total lie. I don't want to go anymore. That's me.
The last meetup that I swear to you, all day, I'm not going to go. I don't feel like going. But I went, and I got taught some stuff, and I met some new connections, and then I was high. Because I made it.
Because you showed up. Oh my gosh, guys, this is a circle of hustle. Oh my gosh.
It's real talk. It's real talk because I just know that there's times where, I got to go show up. And I'm like, damn, man, I'm tired. I'm way down. I didn't shave. I use all kinds of excuses. But the reality is you got to go face yourself in front of people and say, hey, this is what my shingle says. This is what I do for a living.
Exactly. This brings me to one of my favorite quotes. I didn't even need to look this up. This is from Don Quixote. I don't know if you guys ever read Don Quixote or gone to the ballet and see Don Quixote.
I heard the name before.
All right.
Gone to the ballet.
All right.
Oh my goodness.
All right, uncultured swine. But
all right, I'll take it.
The quote is, if you want to be a knight, then act like a knight.
Yeah.
It's about the same thing. Don't talk about what you're doing. Just do it.
Just be about it.
So if you want to clean your apartment, don't tell anyone that you're going to go home and clean your apartment, because that's what I did yesterday, and I did not clean it. Just go home and clean it. You shouldn't live for the satisfaction of others. And this would take me down a very large rabbit hole of what everything wrong with social media is and why I hate it and why I don't use it. But it's because you're telling other people what you're doing.
Right.
And you get that gratification when you do it, and then you feel like you're amazing.
Dude,
Man,
I know...
Gangster, dog.
I'm just going to say this really quick. I know a person who straight up went to Iceland just to take photos for Instagram.
Exactly.
The hell?
Exactly. What? They're living for other people, and
the attention.
I love my job. The only thing I don't like about it is that I work with social media. I absolutely despise it, and that's a whole other podcast, and I think there's so many things wrong with it. But it's all about talking about what you're doing. It gives you satisfaction that you don't deserve, and I hate to tell you.
That being said, it doesn't always have to be like that.
Oh, no, it does not. You can... But
if you're just liking to show off something that's already, accomplished or an already thing in your life, that's awesome. If you're not like checking your phone every 10 minutes to see how many likes it got,
that's where the problem.
That's exactly where the problem is.
That's what I see when I go to like college class. People are always on social media and they click on the little like tab and they see how many likes they've gotten in the past 10 minutes.
Right? Yeah. Like I post a photo, or I don't, but like if I did, I'd post a photo and just, like, have my phone sitting right in front of me so I could see all the likes that come in. And, like, sometimes I'm insecure, and I do check that.
I posted for the first time literally since last September, yesterday. And
oh, my gosh, yeah.
I know. It's been forever. I couldn't even believe it. And it wasn't even on my mind to check likes. But once I saw the first few, I was like, oh, my God, how many people are going to like this? And then I was like, I shouldn't care.
Yeah.
That wasn't the point. It was to show my friends and family who I don't talk to because I'm a flake.
Right.
that I'm still alive. And that's the whole point, is that don't talk about people, about your adventures, about your hustles, about what you want to do with your life. Just go live it, because you're living for yourself. And ideally your hustle,
or you should be,
should also be for yourself.
Yeah.
Preach. That's all I could say.
And all this,
from the mouth of babes.
And if you guys don't remember, this is all circling back to how to fall not into the almost hustle phenomenon, how to actually hustle. Yeah. And so, and all successful hustlers, they're interesting. That's just the thing. When you sit down with a hustler, number one, they're going to listen to you. They're not going to start talking about themselves if they're actually successful. If you ever met one rich person, I'm sorry, who actually worked for it, who the first thing they do is sit down and tell you they're rich or what they're working on. No, they ask how.
Rich people don't say anything about their money.
No,
they don't even talk about money.
And so when you meet a new person or just make a new connection on LinkedIn, and the first thing you're like is like, hey, look what I'm doing, you're already wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think a thing about, rich people don't talk about their money, a reason why they don't, probably a big reason why they don't is because they don't worry about it.
Yeah. It's not an issue for them.
Yeah, it's not like a daily problem
It's
like
a
it is.
mindset.
That's why there's a book called The Millionaire Mindset. And I listen to that book a lot because I know that because I came from nothing, I came from dirt, and I'm trying to get something, my mind has to change.
Yeah.
My mind cannot think poverty. My mind, think about that. If you've had a rough life and you've had people speak nothing but death to you in the sense of you're poor, you'll never make money, you'll never get out of the hood, you're doing all these things, your mind is being developed that way.
Yeah.
And if you come from abusive relationships and, bad parenting and all that stuff is in you, then that's going to reflect in your everyday life. So for me, it's like, dude, I need this book, The Millionaire Mindset. I need to change my mind. And when I'm realizing it's not about the money, it's about my heart and the freedom that I get with the money. The money's a tool. And I truly want freedom.
And it all boils down to you are your own worst enemy, always. When it comes to hustling, when it comes to life.
1,000%.
And when you're trying to avoid almost hustling, just don't worry. Just do it. Don't be afraid of failure.
Take it one step at a time.
Small, attainable goals, and listen to what people are saying.
And let's keep it
And
real.
don't buy a restaurant without people trying your food.
Exactly.
Go cook your food first.
Yeah.
Go do it first.
Or like if we're using the fire analogy, right? Like it's easy to start a fire, it's hard to keep a fire burning.
Flaming.
So before you start the fire, get a tarp, cover your wood so that it doesn't get wet while you're in the process of making the fire. Set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
And I got one more. Just
one more. All right.
Don't make me
Hit
lose it.
Hit us.
If you guys have any questions, reach out to us. We're here to help. We're here to speak life to you. We're here to encourage you. The How to Hustle podcast is all about you, the listener, hoping you'll become one of our family members, and I hope you have a blessed week.
Absolutely, guys. Do your best not to fall into the almost hustle phenomenon by mostly just showing up.
Showing up,
And
listening.
Keep your mouth shut. Show up and keep your mouth shut. I think that's how I want to end this, you guys. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us for episode 5 of the How to Hustle podcast.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
Woo. All right, guys. I'm Rowan.
I'm Jazz.
I'm Joe the Boss, baby.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Blessings.
Welcome to the How to Hustle podcast, brought to you by Blockspace, your creative agency. That's BLOXSPACE.co. That's BLOXSPACE.co. Blockspace.